From your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics on KTAB.
All right, we're back in Taylor County Courts building, right? where Taylor County Commissioners now are housed, across the street from where they used to be, talking with Judge Downing Bolls, talking about another old building, which is the jail right across the street. And we talked about the county commissioners bringing it to the attention of the public by asking for a demolition permit, and everybody, goes, "Oh, demolition! They're tearing down a building." That gets the attention you're looking for.
Yeah, the historic nature of that building. I mean, that's one of the things that people always ask is, why is that building historic? It appears that most of the historic value is because it was designed by David Castle, the architect, and he has done a number of historic buildings. He's done a lot of government buildings around the state. I mean, Mr. Castle was well known in the architectural circles, and that seems to be the big historic thing that really is the historic nature and the historic value of that building. When you get in there and you poke around, you start looking, maybe it'd be a good idea to turn this into an old jail museum, because jails back then were quite a bit different than they are today. That building at one time, average population there was about 35 people.
Wow.
A day. Our jail population now is almost 800. So, I mean, you can see that times have changed, and those were rough conditions back in those days. They had one cell for mentally ill persons, they had one cell for females, and then the rest of them were men. And so if you had women come in, you'd put 2 or 3 of them in the same cell. So, I mean, it was very, very rustic conditions compared to what we have today.
Well, and that's the kind of ideas that you're looking for when you have people come in and say, "Hey, I think we should save this building, and maybe it could be an old jail museum." Albany, the city of Albany
has done an art museum in that jail. You bet.
Great. If you haven't been there.
The funny thing is that a lot of people don't really want to go back. If they were ever in our jail, they don't want to go back and remember that. They'd rather get on with it, which is what a lot of people say. We've had folks from the sheriff's office come over and tell us that I remember as a child going in there when my dad worked as a deputy, and it was a terrible place. You didn't want to go into the jail, and it was so bad that people made a memory of that and said, I don't want to go in there. So
it's not like the jail today, right?
Yeah, that's right. So as we start to look at it, we say, okay, let's see what we can do with that. The most practical thing is to take it down and to get rid of it, and then use that area for parking, because that's the most immediate need we have around here is parking. Now, when people hear you're going to tear an old historic jail down and put a parking lot in this place, they really don't like that, because it does sound like it doesn't sound like a very good use for the property. The reason why a parking lot is good is that, first of all, we need the parking. When this historic courthouse is brought up back to this 1915 look, it's going to remove all the parking on the east side of the building. So that over there will become parking area that's available. We are still using the old original jail over there. It's been converted in for use as office space, so there will be some people working in and out of there. That'll be parking for them. In addition, on Mondays, when we have jury selection day, if you've ever come down here on Monday, it is horrendous trying to find a parking place in proximity to the courts.
Well, because you have juries coming in, right? And
yeah.
Waiting to see if you're going to get picked for jury. And it's not just 12 people, it's a bunch of people. It's a pool of people.
And it's so hard finding qualified jurors to hear cases that they're having to bring in several hundred people just to try to find 12 who can actually sit on the jury and haven't either heard about a case ahead of time or that have the capacity to be able to do that. They have a lot of times they have things they can't do. They're going to school, they're doing this, doing that. Though a lot of times those jurors are disqualified, and so that's why they have to bring such a big pool in. But parking also is a very easy thing to correct. If there is something that we can put there in the meantime, we've talked about a records building. We certainly know that we're going to need one at some point in the future. There's lots of things that we know that we can use that space for. It's very good to use it for a practical purpose now for parking, but that also is easily convertible in the future. If we say we need that space to put a records building in there or something else, then we can very easily clear a parking lot off and erect that building there.
Well, I know parking is a big deal right now. The city of Abilene is doing a study for North Downtown, and I think if I remember right, if I read this right or listened right to a meeting, I think the county stands to make a little bit of money on renting out parking for the soda district.
We have had some interest expressed to us by some folks who are hoping to put a sports facility down in this area. They've come in and approached us and asked, do you think there are possibilities there where you might be able to lease some parking area from you when the games are going on? Or
This is after hours?
Yeah. And we don't have any problem with that. We're certainly willing to look at that and examine that if that's what they want to do. And that seems like a win-win for everybody. So well, it helps the taxpayers out. Obviously, it raises revenue because that's reusable space. So we'll look at it when it comes.
And of course, we'll address this real quick because I know this is news to some people. You mentioned a sports facility being built in the soda district. I mean, that's news to a lot of people.
And this is an idea that's been kicked around for a while. They don't have an exact location yet. They're still looking to secure it, but there is some interest in putting a ballpark of some kind down here and a sports sports facility like that. So I don't know how far along those plans are, but they've just come to us and said, would we be willing to talk to them about that? And we said absolutely. So.
Well, we're a long way away from seeing anything done with that building. And last question, because we're running out of time. What's the next step on that building, on the jail?
We're going to wait and see. We are waiting. Yesterday they did a tour with the demolition folks so they could get a look inside and see what it's going to entail. And we'll be waiting for bids. We're hoping to get those probably by the first part of January. And after that, we will decide who will get the bid. We always have the option, if the bids are too low, we can wait and go for bids again later. But we're moving in that direction. And so I think the commissioners have heard that generally, I think the position is that unless something happens to save that building, we're going to go ahead and move forward with tearing it down.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
You too.
Appreciate it.
I see you, Victor. You too.
All right. We'll be back on Big Country Politics.